What is contemporary photography and what it's not? In the age of AI-generated images and the overwhelming abundance of photographs flooding our screens, the status of photography within the art world has become increasingly complex. Once seen as the bearer of truth and a faithful recorder of reality, photography today is no longer confined to this documentary function. In fact, one might argue that photography has become unchained, liberated from the burden of truth, and opened up to a more imaginative, interpretive, and conceptual use. This raises an important question. If photography no longer needs to reflect reality, what can it reflect instead? This question lies at the heart of what is contemporary photography. Contemporary photography refers to photographic practices from the late 20th century to the present day that engage with modern concepts, technologies, and questions. These modern concepts often include identity and representation, surveillance and privacy, consumerism and mass culture, digital culture and AI, climate and the environment, migration and borders, and temporal disruption. Such themes deconstruct photography beyond aesthetics and into a realm of critical and cultural inquiry. Unlike traditional or documentary photography, contemporary photography often prioritizes ideas over aesthetics, experimentation over representation, and critique over convention. Historically, photography was tethered to the idea of objective truth, with early photographers seeking to mirror the world as it was. Fine art photography later emerged as a means of elevating the photograph to the level of painting and sculpture, often borrowing their compositional techniques and materials. But what distinguishes contemporary photography from both traditional photography and its fine art predecessor is its embrace of fluidity across genre, method, and medium. It often overlaps with installation, performance, digital art, and theory. In my article, How to Put the Art in Fine Art Photography, I explore the qualities that distinguish artistic photography from snapshots. The overlap between fine art photography and contemporary photography is broad for sure. Fine art photography, especially in a contemporary context, is not defined by its subject, but by its intention, process, and the ideas it conveys. It is photography that asks to be considered as art, not merely by mimicking painting or drawing, but by engaging deeply with aesthetics, narrative, and conceptual frameworks. So what is contemporary photography then? Okay, here we go. 4 types of contemporary photography. The following 4 categories, while not exhaustive, offer a framework for thinking about how photographers engage with narrative, concept, action, and process in their work. 1. Staged photography and narrative portraiture. In this mode, the camera becomes a director rather than a passive observer. Staged photography involves meticulously crafted scenes or portraits that tell stories, sometimes intimate, sometimes fantastical. These images are not found but made. They often draw from theatrical traditions, cinema, and literature to build visual fictions that prompt the viewer to interpret, imagine, and feel. An artist who embraces this approach is Prager. Her vividly colored cinematic scenes often depict crowds or individuals caught in moments of tension, curiosity, or quiet drama. Drawing on the aesthetics of old Hollywood and the surrealism of stage sets, Prager creates photographs that feel both nostalgic and uncanny. Her work prompts viewers to wonder about the backstory, the emotion behind the expressions, and the larger narrative just outside the frame. in her 2022 series, Part 1, The Mountain, Prager delves deeper into the human psyche, presenting subjects suspended mid-air, capturing moments of free fall that symbolize emotional upheaval and transformation. These images, rich in saturated colors and meticulous staging, blur the lines between reality and fiction. 2. Conceptual photography. Conceptual photography uses the image as a vehicle to express an idea, often prioritizing the concept over traditional notions of beauty or composition. An iconic example is Sofie Calle's project Suite Vénitienne, in which she followed a man to Venice and documented her pursuit through images and text. Here, while the images are themselves beautiful, the act of following the man becomes the vehicle for discourse. The resulting work blurs the line between surveillance, performance, and narrative, raising questions about intimacy, agency, and the role of the photographer. In other words, the photo becomes not just an image, but a document of a thought process, an artistic gesture, a provocation. Another compelling example is John Baldessari's work, where photography often functions more as a conceptual tool than a crafted object. In pieces like Throwing 3 Balls in the Air to Get a Straight Line, best of 36 attempts, the concept, absurdity, chance, and the arbitrary nature of photographic perfection takes precedence over the execution. The image serves as a residue of an idea rather than an end in itself. 3. Documentation of happenings or installations. Photography is also used within contemporary art to document performances, installations, or ephemeral events. In these cases, the photograph serves both as an archive and as an artwork in its own right. The image becomes a bridge between the temporality of the original event and its continued life in the public imagination. A compelling example of photography documenting ephemeral public art is found in the work of Austrian choreographer and artist Willi Dorner. I had the pleasure to see his work in Berlin, meet him, and talk to him briefly about his craft. Best known for his ongoing project Bodies in Urban Spaces, Dorner creates temporary, site-specific performances in which dancers contort and position themselves into architectural crevices, stairwells, and public structures. These interventions momentarily transform the urban landscape into a living sculpture, provoking viewers to reconsider their spatial awareness and the use of public space. Dorner's work blurs the lines between performance, architecture, and visual art. While the choreography and physicality of the dancers are central, the photographic documentation of these interventions plays a crucial role in preserving and disseminating the work. By integrating dance into everyday urban settings, Dorner invites audiences to reconsider their relationship with public spaces, highlighting the potential for creativity and expression in the most unexpected places. 4th, process-driven and experimental photography. This type of photography centers on the method rather than the subject. Process-driven photography might involve alternative photographic techniques such as cyanotypes, pinhole photography, film soup, or the embrace of light leaks and chemical distortions. These methods often foreground chance, imperfection, and the handmade. Abstract photography can also fall under this type, especially when the focus is placed on form, color, and materiality rather than representational content. Jessica Backhaus, for instance, creates luminous, abstract compositions using reflections, fragments, and translucencies. Her process is deeply tactile and intuitive. She works with everyday materials like glass, paper, string, and colored surfaces, often photographing them in natural light to discover unexpected interactions between shadow, transparency, and surface. Rather than planning each frame with precision, Backhaus embraces spontaneity, letting the materials guide the image. The emphasis is on perception and transformation, how something ordinary can become extraordinary through the act of seeing. In this way, abstraction becomes not a departure from photography's essence, but a deep engagement with its tactile and poetic potential. In my previous video, Wabi Sabi in Photography, I dived into how such practices invite beauty through impermanence and unpredictability. So, as we've seen, contemporary photography can be hard to pin down to a single form or definition. These 4 types, staged, narrative, conceptual, documentation of art actions, and process-driven photography, offer a lens through which we can better understand how artists today are using photography to explore ideas, not just capture reality. Of course, this is just a starting point. The medium is constantly evolving, blending with new technologies, and expanding into new forms. If you'd like to dive deeper into this topic, you can read the full article and explore more resources on my blog at fromlighttoart.com. And if you found this video insightful, please like, share, and comment below. Your support really helps keep this work going and growing. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.